Hello friends and welcome. My name is Carolyn Whittico, the founder of A Cup of Cloudy, which is an art shop and resource for working artists. Today we're going to talk about identifying the art style that you already have, or finding your art style that you have. Now this is a concept that you might be struggling with if you feel like you are completely directionless, all your artwork looks super hodgepodge. You could lay out 10 pieces of artwork on a table and it would look like 10 different artists made them. Okay, so I've been there, I know what that feels like. But the truth is that there's always going to be a little common element that you put into your work. So the trouble with art style when you feel like you don't have one is that with each piece you had a totally different intention. Maybe you were looking at a different piece of inspiration, looking at a different reference photo. Maybe at the time that you made it, you were really inspired or a fan of a different artist, so you were kind of like cherry picking a little too hard from that one artist, right? So every time that you made a painting, you were using a different roadmap, a different inspiration, something different was inspiring that piece. So when you have your own well-defined art style, all of your inspiration comes from one place, and that's from you. So when we get into elements of art style, which is my art class that teaches you your own signature art style, really what we're doing is crafting a North Star for you to keep that guiding light so that there's always that one thing that's inspiring each and every single one of your paintings so that you have a really unified appearance in each of those paintings. So right now you're probably not at that level, which is okay. Everyone's been there. If they're an artist, new or experienced, doesn't matter how many years you've been in the game. An art style is something that you don't really have fully until you intentionally cultivate it and really try to have one. It's not something that you find. That's why you'll see me say find your art style, because it's not something that you just like come across while you're walking down the road. It's something that you have to build, right? You have to clear the clouds away on purpose to see that North Star. So before that you do that, sometimes people will say to you, which this happened to me as well, oh, I can tell that's your art. But the truth is that maybe they can see your sleight of hand. Maybe they can tell it's yours because they're your best friend and they know that you would draw a cat because you love to draw cats. You know, something like that. But you will have certain similarities in your artwork. So don't take these people as liars. Don't think that they're just trying to be nice to you. There is some truth to what they have to say. So, for instance, there are 5 elements of art style, and you may be really good naturally at one of those elements, and it may really show through in your work, and it might seem like you have a really good style in that perspective. So, the 5 elements are color, line and shape, composition, texture, and subject matter. So these elements all have equal weight in your artwork. So if you're really good at choosing a consistent color palette, then all of your artwork is going to look kind of similar. So you might have that going for you in your art style. So we're going to take a deep dive and look at all of those elements in your artwork today. But first I want to go over some basics because there is a little bit of ground that needs to be covered beforehand. So first of all, we want to talk about why do you even want an art style? So the main reason is that because obviously you feel better about your artwork when it looks good. You want your artwork to feel like you. You want it to feel like it's representing your identity to the fullest extent. So when you don't have an art style, like I said, you're really pulling inspiration from all these different places, and that's why it doesn't feel like you. That's why you don't feel good about it when you show it. When you do an art show or you post it on social media, you feel kind of cringe. You feel like, I love making art, but I feel like, I really don't want anyone to look at it. And that's because it's not coming from you. It's coming from a place of, I think this person's artwork looks really cool, so I'm gonna make that. So why you want an art style, for one, is to fully express your own self, your own ideas, and your own inspiration. Secondly is to feel good about your art because you want to feel proud of it. Everybody who makes art deserves to love their artwork. It's just a crime if you make artwork and you hate it, okay? And I know that's a very common thing that artists experience, is making artwork and like being their own worst critic. But I just want to tell you that it doesn't have to be that way, because I'm not my own worst critic. I'm my biggest fan. And that's because I've taken the time to cultivate my art style, and you can also feel that way about your artwork as well. Like, I literally hang my own artwork in my home. My home is an RV, but I hang it up and I look at it because I actually enjoy looking at my art. So you don't have to be your own worst critic. You can love your art. Another reason to make art style is because it attracts specific opportunities for you. So a lot of artists, when they get into the hustle time of their art hustle or the career time, they find that it's really hard to find opportunities. And opportunities meaning like exhibitions, art shows, attracting clients, like getting into magazines, getting news coverage, just like anything, you know, like your friend asking you to paint a mural in their house, just any type of opportunity that you might get to use your artwork in a career type of sense, like a resume item type of sense. If you don't have an art style, you're going to find that those are few and far between. And when you finally do develop your art style, you are going to notice that these come to you easily. You attract them. You don't have to search them out. They just come to you. And it's really magical and amazing. I swear, like, the hustle doesn't feel like a hustle anymore, because you can just attract these opportunities to you. And not only that, but they're going to be aligned to you. So for instance, my style is very like cartoony, kind of children's book vibes going on. And the type of clients I attract are the type of clients who like that work. And the type of commissions that I get, or the opportunities I get, are based on the type of work I get. Like, I get kind of like spiritual commissions. I get family portrait commission requests. The one I just did was actually a mural for someone's nursery for their first baby. So, and those are things that I love. You might be hearing that and being like, 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 I don't want to do that. But I personally love that kind of work. And because I have an art style that aligns with that, that's what I'm attracting. So it just makes your art journey really easy. It makes making money a lot easier in your art business as well. And this is a separate point. Your clients are really, really easy to work with when they know what to expect from you. So an art style is, by definition, my definition that I made up, is a set of consistent choices that result in a unified appearance. So your consistent choices are, you know, the choices that you make when you're doing your art practice, when you're actually making the artwork. And the unified appearance is the result. So that's your actual art style, is the unified appearance. So when you have a unified appearance, basically you're showing up consistently as the same person. So when I make a family portrait, it looks pretty similar to the last family portrait I did, because the style is the same. The people are different. You know, maybe this is like a Chinese couple in this one, and maybe this is a white couple with dogs in this one. And so it's obviously different subjects, but the style is the same. The way that I do the hair is roughly the same. The textures are the same. The composition is the same. And so when I get that third client who's like a redhead with a long-haired, bearded husband, and she wants a family portrait, she knows what to expect because I have a unified appearance in my artwork. So there's less correction requests from my clients, because they're not expecting like a black and white pencil realistic portrait to be sent to them when I send them the final thing, and then they get this like kids literature illustration vibes piece and they're like, whoa, not what I expected. Because it is what they expect, because I'm consistent and I show up consistently with my style. So your clients are way easier to work with when you have an art style, because they just know what you're going to deliver, and that's why they came and asked you for a piece. And then when you deliver that thing that they knew you were going to deliver, they're obviously happy with that. So it really just makes dealing with clients a lot easier. All my clients are amazing. I love them all, and I've just like, it's amazing. I swear it's a game changer having a style, because before I used to really have trouble with clients not knowing what to expect from me and not being happy with what I gave them, and it was just a huge roadblock. So you can avoid that with an art style, and that's a huge reason why you want one. It also brings you in reoccurring customers. So repeat customers really are like the bloodline of your business. it's really great to have one person buy your artwork one time, but to have them be a collector of your work is a whole new level. So when someone collects your work, aka buys more than one piece, like as a set, or even if it's not in a series, just buys a couple of them, they really love your art style. So when I make something, when you don't have an art style and you're making things that are very hodgepodge, you have no North Star, you're walking in the woods with a broken compass, right? You're making black and white forest scene over here. You're making like a blurry impressionism scene over here. You're like, everything is totally different. One person is going to love that black and white forest scene, but they're not going to love that impressionist painting that you made because it looks too different. Like the customer you attract with piece A is going to be a totally different person than the customer you attract with piece B. So your audience is going to be really hodgepodge to match what you're putting out with that hodgepodge type of art. So you really want to build a community around your artwork, and that's how you do that is by having a unified appearance, a unified message, a unified like visual brand per se that will attract that unified type of community that can connect and relate with each other and also with you as a person, because you want to like the people that buy your artwork. So you want to like your art so that you like the people that you attract. Another reason that you want an art style is that it helps you with marketing. So as artists, we have a huge leg up in the marketing and like visual branding department because, so when you are an artist or you're like any type of creator, you have to market yourself. In this day and age, you have to create content, you have to post online, you have to, even if you're doing things out in the real world, visuals matter, okay? People care about visuals. But as an artist, you can heavily lean on your artwork to boost that branding for you. So if you go on to acupofcloudy.com and look at like the little icons I use for my blog posts or just things all around my shop, you'll see even the graphics I put on these videos, you'll see that I use my art style as an advantage because everything kind of looks cohesive in my marketing, in my brand for A Cup of Cloudy, because it just matches the Carolyn Whittico art style. Because why wouldn't it? It's easier that way, it's quicker that way. Why would I make a separate visual style for my brand versus my personal artwork? I wouldn't, because I can just lay on that personal artwork. So as an artist, it's really, really easy to market yourself visually when you have a really defined art style, and marketing sounds boring, but really marketing equals money. So if you want to make money from your artwork or teaching artwork or whatever that you do creatively, classes, etc., it just helps with the marketing and advertising department so much. One last thing that it really helps with is reducing overwhelm. So when I wasn't sure what I was going to be creating on any level, I didn't know even what medium, what tools I was going to be using for that day, it really made creating a stressful process. So there was just a lot of decision making to be made. And as you know, we're all really busy people. We have a lot of shit going on. And really organizing what I'm gonna do as a relaxing activity, aka painting, having to make so many decisions around that just made it stressful and really gave me artist block. I didn't want to paint as much because I just didn't want to have to do the chore of deciding what I'm gonna do. Like, it just wasn't exciting for me, it wasn't relaxing, it felt overwhelming. And it really contributed to how I wasn't making a lot of artwork. So when I decided to create my own art style and find this North Star, I found it to be really, really relaxing to make artwork. Like now when I sit down, I have my watercolors, I use Photoshop, I sketch, I know what materials I'm using, period. I already know before I even sit down, before I even have an idea for a painting, because I have my medium set already, because I know what textures I want, I know what lines and shapes and composition I'm already gonna do, because I have this process and I have this art style in place already. So it just makes a lot of decisions beforehand that when you sit down to paint, it can just be a relaxing and zen process, and you just don't feel that overwhelm or that artist block anymore. And this will help you make more quantity of artwork. And if you have read my Skills Gap blog post which we get into Skills Gap on the Elements of Art Style class as well, but I have a shorter blog post about it, and if you read that, you'll know that specialization, aka having a consistent art style, helps you build skill faster, and having this well-defined art style really helps you pump out more because it's a more relaxing process, and because you're pumping out more and you're pumping out more of similar things, your skill is just going to skyrocket. I'm not going to go too deep into that though, because it's like honestly a whole other topic, but you can count that as a benefit as well. So before we go any further, now that I've listed a bunch of reasons why you might want an art style, you might even have your own as well, which is good, you can add them in, but I just want you to take a second and really think about, what is my biggest motivation for an art style? Is it because I want to make more money? Is it because I want to attract better clients that I vibe with better? Is it because I want to have opportunities that I feel are relevant and enjoyable to me? Is it just because you are feeling stressed about your artwork and you want to feel more calm and zen when you're making it? Like, what is your reason that you want to have an art style? And just think about that for a second before I move on, because we're about to discover what your art style is, what elements you have of an art style right now. Okay. So as I said before, an art style is a set of consistent choices that results in a unified appearance. So the level of art style you have is really dependent on how consistent you are being with your choices right now. So if you are consistently outlining all of your subject matter in really thick black lines, and you're doing it consistently, that is part of your art style. If you are making everything blurry, like if you're like an oil painter and you love to make everything really blurry, and you do that every time consistently, that is a texture that is part of your art style. So if you do things inconsistently, if everything is extremely inconsistent, you have 0% art style. If some things are consistent, then, depending on how many of those things you really do, you'll have, a good or bad art style. Personally, as a quote-unquote expert on this topic, I would say I probably have like a 90% art style or above. So there's only a few things that I really will tweak, and certain things like that will be, obviously, like I said before, if I have a portrait client who is black and has like really kinky hair, I'm gonna draw her hair different than like I would draw my own hair, right? So when I say like, oh, my subject matter, the way I draw hair is the way I draw hair, to a point, yes, okay, to a point, obviously hair looks different. So I love to make hair relatively the same. Like I would still, for both clients with different hair types, I would still do watercolor base for the texture in the background, and then I would do Photoshop details on top. But for me, as a long, straight, blonde-haired girl, I would do, obviously, this color in the background, watercolor, and then I would do long, straight, thin lines. And for kinky hair, I would probably do curly lines in Photoshop. So there are some nuances to where your style shouldn't really always be that consistent. So that's why you have, like, you'll never be at 100%. Right, the way I do hair is the way I do hair, except when their hair looks different, So you're never gonna get to 100%, and that's okay, but you want to definitely be more than 50% at the least. You wanna be more than 50%. And likely, if you know that you don't have a good art style, you're probably gonna be below 50%, which is okay. So, like I said before, not in any particular order, we have the elements are color, line and shape, composition, texture, and subject matter. So these all play an equal role in your work. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at each of these in your work, and I want you to write down 3 themes that you see. So let's do color first. Color is the first one that I personally worked on consciously in my art style. So when I knew that my art was looking hodgepodge, directionless, it looked like it looked a hot mess. I decided to look at artists that I admired with an art style and kind of try to pick out what made their artwork look unified, because I knew I wanted that unified appearance and I wasn't sure how to get it. So when I was learning this for myself, I was really just observing other people and what they were doing. And I decided that, to me, the most noticeable difference that could be made with artwork was color. Color to me has always been the most obvious. I've always been really good at color theory just naturally. Like, I felt like I came out the fucking womb like knowing what color theory was. So that to me was just the easiest thing to target, and it also was the most noticeable thing when I was looking at other people's work. So that's what I chose to target first. So let's look at color. For me, I decided to do all cool tones, and this was because the way I wanted people to feel when they looked at my artwork was I wanted them to feel calm. So I really decided to focus on cool tones because cool tones psychologically make you feel calm, right? That's just a fact. Look at psychology. I actually have a blog post article on that as well, as picking your color. So I chose cool tones. You can choose to do warm tones. You can choose to do like orange and then black and white only. You can just be black and white only if you want. You can be one of those artists who only uses like a blue ink pen, so everything is just blue and that's it. It really doesn't matter. You can also choose to do the rainbow as well. Like, you don't have to really hone in super hard on any one thing, as long as you find yourself well above that 50% consistency rate, okay? So just look in your artwork now, and this will be a time for you to pull up 3 pieces of your work that you maybe want to compare, and we're going to pick through each element to see what are you doing? How consistent are you being basically right now? So look at the colors in these 3 paintings. Are you using the full rainbow? Are you already doing black and white? Are you, like, what colors are you using? Is there a theme? Basically is what you're looking for. And then just rate it on a scale of 1 to 10, and we'll use that as like the percentage. Like, say for instance, if I feel like 2 of those paintings maybe are like mostly green, so that's a theme for me, and then the next painting is like all brown, I would say that's like, a good 60% of me being consistent in the color category. So maybe just give it a 6 out of 10. If they're all completely different, give it a 0. You don't have a style in that category. Next, we're going to look at texture. Texture is largely defined by your medium or materials that you use. So for instance, if you're a ceramic artist, your texture is going to be completely different than me as a watercolor and digital artist. Obviously, I'm 2D and I only have 2D, like very flat texture in my work. As a ceramic artist, you're going to have extremely 3D texture in your work. So just look at the textures. And by texture, I want you to notice, is it bumpy? Are you like a thick palette girl, right? Are you like a chunky on the canvas girl? Are you a charcoal girl? So maybe everything is kind of great, like gradients, use a lot of gradients. Or is everything, are you like manga or anime, will use very flat colors. So there's maybe just flat with shadows and that's it. Do you use cross-hatching? Cross-hatching is a texture. Do you use pointillism, all those tiny little dots? That's a texture. So I just really want you to look at what textures in these 3 paintings that you already have. And like I said, if you find similarities, rate it 1 through 10. 1 through 10, how similar, how consistent are you being with these? Next is composition. Composition is kind of like a high-level element, and it's not something I really focus on consciously at all. I just naturally was inclined to lean towards something. So composition is how things are placed in relation to each other on the page. So for me, most of my artwork, not all of it, I'm kind of growing out of this, but most of my artwork is just the subject on a white background or a black background. So to me, it's really just the subject and in relation to this blank background. So for you, if you do more landscapes, it could be like how your foreground, middle ground, and background are placed on the page. Is the focus on the middle ground? is the focus on the foreground? Is the focus in the background, truly? So how do these elements on the page tie together? You may need to Google like examples of composition or what is composition in art to really understand this. It does get a little complicated. Like I said, personally, I did not focus on this right away. I just knew that I would be like, oh, I want to learn how to paint a snake. I've never painted a snake before. Let's see if I can draw it. And I really wasn't interested in perspective or the background. So I would just draw the subject matter in relation to nothing. Like it would just be at the center of the page. And that would be that. So eventually that just became a natural part of my art style. And like I said before, when people would be like, oh, I think, you kind of have an art style, there is some truth to it even when you feel like you don't, because of things that you do on accident. And that's the one that I did on accident, is I just, didn't put any thought into it, but I had that perfect composition for a really long time. Like I said, I did kind of experiment my way out of that because I wanted to learn landscapes and things, so this may or may not be consistent for you already. So check in these 3 pieces. Are you being consistent with your composition or not? Okay, the next one we're going to go into is subject matter. Subject matter is the actual items or people or subjects you are painting. If you're an abstract artist, you likely don't have a subject. So abstract artists are like, the people who just like drip things on the canvas, or they make just shapes only, lines and shapes only. So if you're a figurative artist, this is really going towards you. Because if you're an abstract artist, then yeah, you're consistent in that like pretty much all the time, because your subject matter is no subject matter. There's no subject. So that's 10 out of 10 in that category if you're an abstract artist. If you do paint figures, look at what you're painting. Are you painting a lot of florals? Do you paint a lot of people? Do you paint a lot of buildings? Do you paint a lot of animals? Do you paint, this also could be like themes, like inner themes, like not necessarily the actual subject. So it could be something like depressing. Like say if I only make depressing paintings, I would consider that a subject in the category of subject matter, even if I do a different thing every time. Say if I draw a sad cow and then I draw like a dirty kitchen countertop that I'm looking at right now, like a depressing, like what do they call it, like depression bedroom or whatever, where it just like looks really fucking messy because you've been depressed, or whatever you would consider under that umbrella of depression, even if they technically are different subjects, that would be a very unified subject matter category. So go ahead and look at these 3 paintings. What did you choose to paint? Are they consistent? Do they have a theme that ties them together? Yes or no? And then rate it 1 through 10. The next one we're going to do is line and shape. So this one for abstract artists is really important for you because all you do is line and shape. So how thick are your lines? What kind of shapes are you using? Like for me in my work, I do a lot of round shapes. So I like to pose this as round versus angular. So for instance, if you make like anime drawings, your stuff's gonna be really angular because they all have those angular chins, the pointy hair, everything's pointy. But for me, I like things like I said, I liked the calmness. I wanted people to feel maybe a little bit calm when they look at my work. So I chose to do soft, soft wavy hair, flowy dresses, winding florals, things like that. So everything is kind of circular and not angular. So that's a type of shape that I like to use in my work. It could also be like the direction of the lines, like cross-hatching. So there is this is advanced knowledge really, but cross-hatching would be both in the category of line and shape and texture. So think about repeating lines or, circular angle versus whatever. Just you'll find some themes that are repeating in your work. If you use a lot of triangles because you like the symbolism behind, triangles and the third force and stuff like that, then you will say, oh, I use triangles a lot. So just write down 3 similarities if you can find them in your 3 paintings and just give it a 1 through 10. Is there consistency in your line and shape? Is this one really angular and this one's really circular, etc.? So the more that you look at your paintings, the more you will realize how much of a style you do or do not have. It doesn't really matter how much you do or do not have an art style right now. You can always choose to work on it later on. And there will always be things that you can't escape in your art style, even after you start working on it. So, for instance, think of your handwriting, right? Your handwriting is very unique to you. It is your signature. That's why I like to call this your signature art style, because I love to think about it in the way of handwriting. So your handwriting really is not something that you can control that much. Yeah, you can try to train it out if you really force it, but there is a natural way that you write, your L's and your P's and your capital cursive if you write in cursive. There's just a certain flavor that you always bring that's inescapable. And not only that, but in something like subject matter, there is a certain vibe that you will bring just based on your interests. Like, so for me, when I make art for me started as kind of like a therapeutic experience. It started because I was bored and I was stressed and I was, I wanted something to calm me down. So that's why you always see that calmness and that childlike wonder, that curiosity peeking through in my artwork, because that's just what I'm interested in, right? It says something about me in that. And so when you make your artwork, that stuff is going to peek through. And no matter what your art style is, your character, yourself, your identity is going to peek through in your work. Really, when you are making any type of expression, you can only express from you. You can't really express from such and such that you see online. So it's always going to have that handwriting flavor, that signature flavor. It's always going to have a little bit of you in there. So it's just inescapable, and you shouldn't try to escape it. You should really try to embrace that. And that's what we're here to find today, is not just the visuals, but the behind the scenes themes and messages and feelings that are already present in your work. So one last thing I want you to look at, which this is technically not an element, but I want you to look at these 3 pieces, and I want you to think about how you were feeling when you made them, and how do you feel looking at them now? Because this is a thread that you're going to find consistently in your artwork once you start producing a lot of artwork, especially when you choose your unified appearance that you want to have, is how do you want to feel when you're making it, and how do you want people to feel when they look at it as well? So take a second to really look at your artwork and just think about it. How were you feeling when you made that? What was the inspiration when you made that? Because this is that underlying current that will be inescapable in your work. So that's just a little bonus tip. It's not an element, but it will always be present for you. So if you're looking for your true style, it really doesn't come externally. It comes from the inside. It comes from your internal space, and you're bringing it into this external space. So whatever you have in here is what you're going to bring out here. And I just want you to remember that when you're looking for your art style. So I hope this has been super helpful for you. I know that discussing this kind of thing can sometimes bring up a lot of identity issues for people, because it is really personal. Like when I look at some of my artwork or my poetry or anything that I choose to express, it is very personal because it always reflects you. Like, you can't escape certain things about you, and it sometimes is kind of intense to bring it out so that people can see it and look at it. So that's why having an art style is really important, because it can make you feel confident in showing these things to other people. Because yeah, it's always going to have those underlying themes, those underlying interests that just come from within you. But when it looks pretty, when it looks unified, when it looks cohesive, when it feels like you, when you can feel proud of it, then it really makes it a lot easier to not only sell it, but to share it with your friends, share it with your loved ones, present it, talk about it, because you're going to feel more confident, and you're going to feel like, I know myself, I know my artwork, I know what I'm trying to say with this piece, I know how I want people to feel. I know what I want it to look like. And it just brings this like confidence that helps you share it. And seriously, it helps every level of your art business. It helps every level of an art hobby in general. It just brings that spice and flavor and direction back into your art practice that you just can't get any other way without having an art style and like a defined sense of self. So I know that this seriously has helped you. If you're looking at these 3 pieces and you're like, fuck, I don't have any direction, I'm at like a 1 out of 10, then that's okay. If that's you, I want you to know that Elements of Art Style is a class that I do offer. By the time you're watching this video, it may or may not be open. I do only open it about once a year. So I know when I'm releasing this video for the first time, the doors are open. However, go ahead and check my website. Go to acupofcloudy.com. Go to the study tab. You'll find Elements of Art Style under there. It's also in the shop. But go ahead and read about that and see if you want to get in this, because if you're at less than 50% art style cohesiveness, you're going to want to learn this before you do anything else, because it is the foundation that leads to the success in all the other areas of your art business, your art journey. Whether you're a business person, you want to sell your work online, or if you're just a hobby and you do it for like personal Zen therapy, okay? Because this is really, it helps both sides. And I swear, like when I first did this, when I first went through my artist style transformation, I wasn't necessarily looking for all the monetary benefits that it brought. Like I was actually looking just for that feeling of pride and feeling of like knowing who I was and what I wanted to express. That's what I was really reaching for. But what I found was not only that, but I also found that it brought me all these clients and all these good opportunities and all these like, it really snowballed very quickly. And that's why I feel so passionate about teaching this, because I know that it is the foundation for everything else in your art journey. And without this North Star, like you're just going to be fucking lost, dude. And that sucks. So we don't want to be there. We want to be like well above 50% of that art style cohesiveness. So if you're feeling like you're not where you want to be with this, go ahead and go to my website and go to acupofcloudy.com and look at Elements of Art Style. So this class is going to transform this art style for you. So you're looking at this now and you're seeing the art style you do or do not have. But what we go through in the class is really a step-by-step roadmap of creating a new art style. So we will take some of the things that you already have identified in this masterclass here, but we're going to build on that. And if there's things that you don't like that you found here today, we're going to eliminate those too. So it's a weeding out process. It's learning about your skills gap and the definition of skills gap and the difference between skill and style. We talk in depth about that because it's a hurdle a lot of people have. We talk about decision making. I just help you find your style and build that North Star for yourself, so that when you're making a new painting every single time, you have that guide. You have that North Star guide that really shows you the way. And so when you have these steps, these rules, this star to follow, every piece looks cohesive because you're making those consistent decisions. You're making those consistent choices. And so it has no choice but to look unified in appearance. And it's so easy when you have a roadmap in front of you. And that's what Elements of Art Style does. So it's a 7-lesson, 7-step class. It's really easy. Each of the lessons are about 20 minutes long, give or take. And there's a piece of homework to go with every single one of them. They're very quick. Honestly, if you really had like a good full day, you could binge it in a day if you really wanted to. But I suggest doing it over a 7-week period. So if you're looking to transform your art style, if you want to feel good about your art, if you want to feel confident about it when you show it, if you want to feel like it really represents you, if you want to make more money, make more sales, have repeat customers, have nicer clients, like literally if you want to up level your whole fucking art career, get into this class. That's all I have to say. Mic drop. All right, thanks guys for being here. Go ahead and DM me if you have any questions. Email me at acupofcloudy@gmail.com as well if you have any questions. I'm always at the end of my email answering them for you. I don't use a chat bot or anything. I don't have an assistant. I like to speak directly to you guys. So ask me any questions if you have any about the class. If this was helpful, make sure to share it because we love a little share. We love to join. We love to, add people to our art community. So yeah, that's all I have for you today. Thanks for hanging out with me. My name is Carolyn Whittico, and I hope to see you in Elements of Art Style. See you then.